Welcome to the Providing More podcast. I'm your host, Brent Saunders from PM Title. In today's episode, we interview Sean Michael Mitchell, a realtor from Denver, Colorado, that leverages passion for Tesla into a YouTube channel of over 40,000 followers and a network to build a more successful real estate business. And thank you, Sean, for joining me on Providing More podcast. So I really just want to jump into it and learn a lot. We met you about 3 years ago at a outbound sales conference in Atlanta. And the first thing we learned about you was that you have a Tesla and you love your Tesla. So, I really want to learn about that passion and how that has helped your real estate market or your real estate business.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this, and real estate and electric vehicles in general are a big part of what I spend my days on. So excited to unpack that a little bit and talk about how my involvement with electric vehicles and Tesla relates to real estate.
And so actually, I guess let me back up slightly. So when did you actually get into real estate?
I am 3 years into the business as a licensed agent. However, I'm not new to the industry. I actually started working for a company you may be familiar with. They're pretty well known in mortgage as well, but it's called BombBomb. It's a video email software. I think I was employee number 7, so I was early on in the company. I remember helping them grow their real estate vertical. So I was helping real estate agents and mortgage professionals grow their business through this simple short form video email software product, and spent about 4 years at the company and rubbing shoulders with some very, very successful real estate agents and mortgage professionals. And that was ultimately, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the launching pad for me to become a licensed agent. So I've been in the real estate industry for about 9 years. The last 3 years has been a licensed residential real estate agent in the Denver area.
So that's interesting. So when we probably met you in Atlanta, you were probably were you with Video BombBomb then?
I think I may have just recently transitioned from them. I worked at a couple of other companies, one of them real estate related, the other one not. So I think that I was working for one of those other software companies before I actually jumped into residential real estate. But it was around that time. I probably had just recently moved on from BombBomb when I met you.
And so tell me about your first year as a licensed agent.
Because I had a lot of exposure to real estate, one of the things that I wanted to do was join a real estate team underneath a brokerage. So I asked some of my real estate network, is there anyone in the Denver area that's got a team that's crushing it? Was referred a couple of people, interviewed them, ultimately selected the team that I felt like was best for me. And so for the first probably 6 months, I was working with this particular team. Really invaluable experience, especially being someone who was new to the transaction side of things. They trained me, taught me, they even helped me generate some leads. I think my first year I did 15 transactions. So it was a really good start to my first year, I think at least. But after about
fantastic.
6 months, I think I decided that I needed to work on my own and keep a little bit more of that money that I was giving to the team. So sort of went off. I'm still with the same brokerage that I started with 3 years ago, but it was the first six months was with a team, and then I sort of finished out that first calendar year on my own.
And so just to kind of understand how you found that team, I mean, you said you interviewed a couple teams and chose one that best aligned with what you were looking for. What were you looking for?
I was looking for the support, the systems, the processes. I wanted, so when I was with BombBomb, we worked quite a bit with Tom Ferry, a real estate coach. He's pretty well known, great guy. And I reached out to one of the coaches with the Tom Ferry group and just asked, who's coaching with Tom Ferry that has a team that's in Denver. and that's how I got referred to a couple of those agents who had a team. So um, the process. I mean, I just had lunch with both of them, or had coffee with both of them, and selected the one that I thought was going to best support me and my personality and how I operate.
And what you said you were looking for one that had systems in place. What systems were important to you first coming into the industry?
Well, as a new agent, one of the things that I thought about was how do I generate business? Being in a so I had moved to Denver from Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is about an hour south of Denver. So being in a new market and not really having a good network, I thought through the process of how can I grow my business as quickly as possible with knowing that I didn't have a deep network initially in Denver, didn't really know anyone. And so that was probably one of the important things, but also having someone to sort of hold your hand and ask questions when things come up. They had systems in place. It got so granular that you could go to. They had sort of an outline for, let's say, when you had a buyer that wanted to put an offer in. They had a step by step process on how to fill out the contract, things that you need to know, and the same thing for listings, the process for putting a house on the market. So they had created these sort of step by step outlines that you could access from Google Docs and utilize as you were working through that process. So those were some of the processes that stick out to me, at least as a new agent, needing to get ramped up as fast as possible.
And so, that would be extremely difficult. The first thing everybody tells you in real estate when you first get into the industry as a realtor is to leverage your friends and family, your sphere. And if you just moved an hour away from everybody, your sphere is probably pretty small first coming into Denver. So, what was the first thing you did to start building out that network and connecting with people?
Yeah, this is a really appropriate segue into what we're going to be talking probably a lot about, which is the Denver Tesla Club. So, when I looked at where could I spend my time that would be most effective, one of the things that just in general, sort of my personal sales philosophy is I should be around people and be doing things in my spare time that I actually enjoy. And by nature of being exposed to people that are enjoying the same things that I am, I naturally build my business. So I bought my Tesla in September of 2016. I hadn't quite gotten my real estate license, and I think it was about 6 months after that. But because I wanted to get involved in network, I reached out, found the local Denver Tesla Club. At the time, I wasn't running it, and it was quite small, but was interested in just hanging out with other people who own Teslas and sort of shared that similar philosophy and enjoyment about the company and the cars. And that was sort of the beginning of me building that network, and certainly did not materialize in terms of real estate transactions instantly. But over the course of the years, it has been a really valuable resource for me to pull from.
Yeah, and I see that you have the YouTube page where that's all about Teslas and I guess technically all things electric vehicle,
Hmm. Hmm.
and 40,000 subscribers to that page. That's really really impressive to have that kind of following. How did you build that? I mean, were you just filming on your iPhone? Were you getting professional videography done? How did you start to truly build that?
You know, in a very similar way to how I got involved with the Denver Tesla Club, it was I just want to do things that I enjoy. And so all of what we'll talk about today started as a hobby, as an interest. So, the YouTube thing was I had a Tesla, and at the time in 2016, and in still even 2017, Tesla was only producing the Model S and X, which are
Hmm.
still very rare vehicles. And I thought that it would be interesting to provide a perspective of someone who drives a lot in the real estate industry, and puts a lot of miles on the car. So that there's this expertise and this knowledge that you gain by driving the vehicle. And at that time there were not very many people that had high mileage Teslas, and so the channel initially started just documenting the journey of ownership, talking about how the car is handling and wearing over the course of driving it, accessories that I was really enjoying. Like, I remember doing a review on my iPhone of the all-weather mats that Tesla sells in their store and what I think about them as someone who lives in a snowy climate in Colorado. So it started off like that, and then gradually, little by little, each video you get a little bit more views, a few more subscribers, and that was I think that was probably around 3 years ago or so, when I first posted my first video. And now it's of course quite large, and the people recognize me when I'm out and about, not just in Denver, but when I go to electric vehicle events, people know me from the channel. So that's a really interesting one, and certainly a great way to gain exposure to people who might be interested in moving to Denver as well. And I've actually started to have people reach out and tell me that they're moving to Denver and they'd like to use me as their real estate agent
Yeah, and I think
because
that's
they were
awesome.
watching my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Again, we talk a lot about it with people about finding your sphere is not just friends and family. Your sphere are your interests, and again, you took that to the nth degree, I think. And just looking at your YouTube page, I see one of your first videos that has 74 views, and I know a lot of people start out with getting discouraged, going, oh well, it's not getting traction. Your highest number of views, I think, is almost 1 million. It's way up into the high hundreds of thousands of views and everything. So I think that's a testament to that perseverance of going, hey, I'm going to continue and not just get discouraged after 74 views on one thing. So were you producing? I mean, so you said you were doing some stuff, just on your iPhone initially. Are you still doing that? Did you buy your own camera equipment? Do you have a videographer? How do you do that now?
It has grown over time. It started off initially just using my iPhone. I had it on a mini tripod, and then as the so I make money off of my videos, off of my YouTube videos. It's not substantial in terms of the amount of time that I put into it, but when the YouTube ad revenue started to come in, I would take a portion or all of that and reinvest it back into the effort. So now I have a DSLR camera, a Canon 80D. And I've got wireless microphones. I've got just a different set depending on the setting. If I'm outside, I've got a boom, like a portable boom mic with a dead cat on it to kill the wind noise. So you learn some of these things over time, and the wonderful thing about the internet is there are some people who have no filter, and they'll say it just as is, whether it's great or whether it's terrible. And I remember, I can give you a specific instance where I posted a video where I interviewed a guy who was one of the first people in Denver to own a Model 3, their affordable four-door sedan. And we were outside, and we did this sort of comparison between my car, the Model S, which is their full-size, higher price sedan, and then the Model 3, the less expensive one. And it was really windy. And I got a lot of feedback, a lot of critical feedback on that video in the comments section, saying that it was too windy, they couldn't watch it. And so, after that, I went and I bought the dead cat to cover the boom mic to kill the wind noise. And so over time, you sort of learn what people want and need. And I've just reinvested back into the effort. And the other thing that I'll mention here is that I also do real estate videos as
Absolutely.
well, like specific real estate videos on a separate channel, nowhere near as big as this one. And so there is this overlap. Everything that I've learned talking about electric vehicles on my YouTube page, I've been able to sort of cross over and do real estate market updates and house tours and things like that. And it really adds a nice professional polish to the real estate videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was definitely going to address that as well because I watched a lot of your your videos. But before I get down that rabbit hole, I'm curious about. So I know you've got the YouTube channel, and it's got 40,000 followers for the electric vehicle YouTube channel and everything. But is that the only platform that you're posting those videos, or do you post on multiple platforms for whether it be EV or whether it be real estate?
Yeah, so I take a couple of different approaches. So with the electric vehicle stuff, I try and channel everything to the YouTube page, primarily to maximize the ad revenue. Um, I probably could, put it on other platforms where there is ad revenue, but I really try and focus intently on that. With the real estate stuff, that's not my intent to make money from ad revenue. My
Right.
my intent is to make money from selling real estate. And
Right.
so on my real estate videos, I put it everywhere I possibly can. So
Okay.
it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's my website, my real estate website, it's LinkedIn. I try and spread that, far and wide, because I don't, it's not my intent to make ad revenue from my real estate efforts.
And I think that's a great way to frame it, is that you have to, each of these projects that you're doing, or businesses essentially that you have with being a realtor, or doing the electric vehicle YouTube page, is you have to understand where your business is coming from, and how to monetize. So I definitely think that makes total sense. So for the real estate side, you do a monthly market update every single time, and kind of talk me through that. Where are you getting this content, and how are you creating this content? Are you going to a source and buying it? Or are you just reading on your local board's website, or are you creating this content yourself?
That's a really good question. I know a lot of agents just take whatever the MLS has provided in terms of charts and stats,
Hmm.
but I've taken a little bit of a different approach. I actually go into the MLS. I pull the data for the area, for the market that I serve, which is, primarily the Denver metro area. So not just the city of Denver, but also covering some of these suburbs as well. And I actually go in and I analyze the data. I take the specific things that I think viewers or people, home buyers and sellers would be interested in, and I've got Google spreadsheets that I update each month. I put the data in that I've taken from the MLS, and then it creates these beautiful charts in Google Sheets. And then I take those charts, and I build a presentation slide essentially in Google Slides, and then I take those and I export them as images, and then I'll use them as visuals as I'm talking, in the video. And this has been an evolution. How I initially started off with these market updates is I was doing like a Facebook Live video, but it
Hmm.
was really hard for me to get visuals when doing Facebook Live. And so the evolution of that was I create the same, I talk about the same information each month, and then I also I also will take questions from Facebook and Twitter. So before I record the video, I'll just ask my followers or friends, what questions do you have about the real estate market, and then I'll address them in the real estate market update video, sort of Gary Vaynerchuk style. And then I mention them when I share out the video. So it's a real nice way to get the virality part of it by addressing people's questions, and then maybe potentially gaining some gaining some expertise and credibility from these people who were asking the questions.
Yeah, and I thought that was a fantastic touch to it, because especially, and again, going to look at your Twitter, you've got over 7,000 followers on Twitter, and again, leveraging that network of people that are following you and going, hey, what questions do you have? Instead of me guessing what people want to know, just ask for that input and then answer their questions. I thought was really, really interesting. But so in Twitter, to me, I always kind of thought, and people I've talked to within real estate, they've always kind of said, well, Twitter isn't the best platform for it, and they prefer Facebook or Instagram for the social media platforms and everything. So you've done a good job with Twitter. Now, is that Twitter, is that also incorporated with the EV as well?
Yeah, so the YouTube pages are separate because it probably just timing wise. I think it's hard it's hard to talk about both and keep both audiences the same. On Twitter, I do talk a lot about electric vehicles. I would say probably 85, 90% of the content on Twitter is is electric vehicle specific.
Okay.
A lot of my audience are electric vehicle owners. But I do also like to share out my real estate content. So it's the market updates. I'll also do things like, you know, top 20 best homes in Denver for sale right now, for example, or I'll focus on, a different style or architecture of home, like Denver Squares is a really popular one, or mid-century modern. So try and create some content like that, and I do share it out on Twitter. Um, Facebook is Facebook is a mixture. A lot of it, it started off a lot of like close friends and family. As I've gotten a little bit more well known in the electric vehicle space, people have found me and wanted to just sort of be connected with me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well, and it's probably a little bit better mix of real estate and electric vehicle stuff. And I intentionally try and do that. Instagram is just a great visual for homes and cars as well.
Absolutely.
So it varies. I'm not as big on LinkedIn. I'm not as bullish on LinkedIn just in general, but I do make sort of a half-assed effort to post content on a fairly regular basis.
Well, and you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier. Have you seen that Gary Vaynerchuk's been really big on LinkedIn recently?
Yeah, yeah, I have. He's gotten really bullish about it, but he was also really bullish on Snapchat, a few years ago. But that
Absolutely.
has sort of fizzled out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was very interesting. We saw him. He was actually here in Columbus last year, and we stopped by and watched him. And yeah, he was big on LinkedIn. So we snagged him afterwards at the kind of meet and greet. And I'm like, where did this come from? And he said, "Up, that's the next big thing. Pump all your money in there." So I thought that was interesting. We have not really seen it materialize much in our market. It sounds like must not be booming for your market out there in Denver quite yet as well.
You know, here's the thing: you just don't know where your clients are going to come from.
Absolutely.
So, and you never know when they're going to pop up. I just try and produce content that I think is informative, invaluable, and you you never know. Like you get one real estate transaction from LinkedIn, and there's a good chance that it justifies all the effort. So sometimes it's a lot of sowing seeds without seeing any return. And back to the point that you made earlier about my YouTube growth, it was slow and gradual, day by day, week by week. And then all of a sudden it starts to gain traction. And I think that's a huge part of the real estate business. Sometimes you don't see a lot for a while, but you have to sort of follow your heart. I think do what you love, and people I think will be attracted to that. And those are the types of clients that you want anyway. The people who are bought into you and your message.
And that's one of the things I actually love when we were kind of talking about doing this podcast. I love that you know where all your business came from, and I know it seems like a simple concept, yet I meet with a lot of agents that don't know where their business actually came from. They know how much they increased year over year, but if I say, okay, what's the breakdown? Where did it come from? They may not actually know. And I think to me, I think it's important because it's all about reallocating resources. And if you're spending money to buy leads, or if you're spending time investing in anything, but you're not gaining any business from that, well, then you need to reallocate that resource. Take that money and pump it into somewhere else. Take that time and pump it in somewhere else. So I love that you know where all of your business came from. You put that four transactions came from your involvement in the Tesla. Denver Tesla Club, as well as your YouTube channel. So, were those more? I know you said that some people that follow you that say they're moving to Denver will reach out, but is that more from the meetups, or is it more from just from the YouTube channel and the following online out of those four transactions you had last year?
Yeah, one of them. I'm trying to think if so. I know one of them in particular was someone who I didn't know, who watched my electric vehicle YouTube channel and reached out to me directly and said, "We got a job in Denver. We're moving from North Carolina. to Denver. Will you help us buy a house? So that was actually a really, really fun one. I think that that was probably the first time that that had ever happened. I talk, in the last probably 2 or 3 months, I probably have had 4 conversations with people who watch my YouTube channel, my electric vehicle YouTube channel, or follow my electric vehicle stuff on Twitter, who are considering. In fact, I just received a text 2 days ago from a Tesla owner in San Francisco who heard of a coworker or a friend maybe who's moving to Denver. He reached out and said, "Hey, what's your business contact information? I want to refer you this person." So that is happening more and more. I think last year I would say that one couple that moved from North Carolina to Denver was probably the first time that they reached out directly from the YouTube channel, and I didn't know them. The other three came from the Denver Tesla Club and just relationships that I had built over time. I'm not a I don't I try my best not to talk about real estate when I'm doing the Denver Tesla Club stuff, because I just don't want there to be a conflict of interest. Like someone might say, "Hey, you're leveraging this to grow you're taking advantage of your power and influence in the Denver Tesla Club to grow your real estate business and profit off of it." So I try very little. I try as much as possible to not talk about it. But it's inevitable. People on the Denver Tesla Club become my personal Facebook friends, and so they see the stuff that I post about real estate on my personal Facebook page. So there is some intermingling there, but that stuff definitely happens more and more, and I'm starting to see people that I have never met before who follow my EV stuff reach out and ask for my real estate help.
Well, yeah, and obviously I would have assumed that it was more so the meetups and the relationship building. Because again, just as you're spending time talking about the passion with the Tesla and the meetups, you're gonna inevitably talk about yourself and what you do, and you get that opportunity to kind of give that, hey, I'm an agent and I can help you, buy or sell, whatever that your elevator pitch may be. Um, so
There's
go ahead.
I think there's another thing that I'd like to add here that I think would be valuable to the real estate agents who are listening to this. And one of the things that we're starting to see converge in this electric vehicle and renewable energy space is this idea that if you have an electric car and you're buying a house, you need to really think about what the charging setup is like in that house that you're buying. And so you need to understand how much room is in that breaker box in the house. And if you own an electric vehicle, you're charging your electric vehicle in your garage, you're probably starting to think about adding solar to your house, whether it's an environmental thing or a cost reduction thing, because you're using electricity, it's slightly increasing your electricity bill. So you're introducing these other elements. If you're a real estate agent, you've got a client who drives an electric vehicle, understanding how that stuff works, the nuances of how much power you need in that breaker box to charge your electric vehicle, I think it's really, really important. And then understanding the positioning of houses in terms of solar exposure for that roof. These are all things that are going to become more prevalent the more that people buy into electric vehicles. And I think it's really important for real estate agents to understand at least the basics of that.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of now getting a little bit more popular. We've just done a couple of different presentations down at the Columbus Board of Realtors, where they're talking about solar and how that impacts everything. And again, obviously with the EVs as well. So we're definitely learning in this market a little bit more and doing more presentations down at our Board of Realtors to learn. So yeah, it's an excellent point though. So to go back to the YouTube page and the EV, so how do you said you got that one client last year that just reached out and said, hey, we're moving to the Denver area, we'd like to use you as an agent. So are you branding yourself as a realtor on those videos, or is that purely there, no discussion about Denver real estate at all? Is it all just EV? I mean, how did they know you're a realtor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do occasionally mention it. I've started to be a little bit more intentional about it, and also do some videos that sort of bring the two together. The So I did a video, I think in December. This was at the request, I think, of someone on either YouTube or Twitter. They wanted to know, does solar increase home values? And so
Yep, I saw that.
I went into the Denver MLS and pulled data. on homes that had solar and homes that didn't of similar square footage. And so I created a video around that and talked about, you know, the value of solar and whether it had a positive impact on sale price when someone goes to sell that property. So I've tried to start doing that a little bit more, be a little bit more intentional about it, because it is a wonderful platform. As long as I can ensure that I'm educating, providing value in a way that, because it's a really unique experience to be a real estate agent, to work with these electric vehicle owners to help them buy houses, and to also help these people with the solar process and understand how that works. And so presenting that on the EV channel is a nice compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that, that outbound sales conference that we met at 3 years ago. Always creating more value and finding things that, and staying on the cutting edge and everything. And you're clearly doing that, and you're very data driven, I can tell, which I think is fantastic as well. I'm a data nerd myself. So I think that's fantastic. Moving on, you also said that, 50% of your business last year came from referrals. So tell me about how you got that referral business. How do you use a CRM and stay on your clients? I mean, obviously you have a lot of experience with BombBomb, so that's a great way to stay connected to people. But what are you doing to get that referral business?
Well, a lot of it is just taking really good care of your current clients. I don't necessarily have I think I do have a pretty good process for keeping in touch with people in general. Text messages is a really good way for me to keep in touch with past clients, just to say hello. Like I don't think I've ever asked someone, hey, do you know of anyone that's thinking about buying or selling? I just like to keep in touch with people. How are they liking their house? How are things going? How's the congratulations on the new baby? In fact, there was a client of mine. I helped sell their house, one of their investment properties last year, for $50,000 over asking price, and they just had their first baby. And so I sent them a text message and replied to their Facebook post, and so I do have a CRM that's built by the brokerage that I work for. It's a boutique brokerage here in Denver, and I do have it, but I'm not. I'm very organic with how I do things. So I do have an email list that I send a monthly email out, sending them the real estate market update, talking about what the market is doing. I do include some posts from the previous weeks in there, and any new listings that I have. That's a monthly touch to my database. And then I also keep in touch with clients via text message and social media as much as I possibly can. But I don't actively use a CRM the way that I don't actively add notes in and talk about the conversations, and maybe I should, but at the moment what I'm doing is working pretty well. In terms of the referrals, it's existing clients and it's lenders. The lender piece has been an interesting nut to crack, because I've always thought that lenders have done a lot of asking without giving a lot back. They've asked for business, they've asked for referrals, and that's easy for, like, real estate agents are going to need to refer their clients to someone. But what I found is that the mortgage lenders were not reciprocating the business. And so I just found some mortgage lenders who were willing to reciprocate the business. And so last year so I got a referral from a mortgage lender. I sold that referral's house. I was that family's house that I sold. They referred their son to me, and then later on that year, they referred their other son to me. So it's going deep and not necessarily wide. It's maximizing the relationships that you have. But the mortgage lender referrals has been a really, really good thing for me to find people who are willing to reciprocate the business.
Yeah, it goes back to one of my favorite quotes of all time, is that your network is your net worth, and really being able to meet more people, and the more people you know, the more people and opportunities you have to grow your business. So for 2020, what is your biggest goal, and what are you going to be focused on to help grow your business and hit that goal of 20 closings this year?
It's doing a lot of the stuff that I have been doing until I think that it's not working anymore. What I'm doing right now, the things that we've talked about today, are working really, really well. I'll continue to do the electric vehicle YouTube stuff. The influence there continues to grow. I'll continue to be involved with heading up the Denver Tesla Club. We're now over 1,000 members, and when I took the club over, it was at 75 members.
Wow.
So that is continuing to grow, and it will continue to grow as Tesla rolls out new vehicles. In fact, I think that the club grew 3x in the last 12 months.
Wow.
So these things are working really, really well. I want to continue to build the referral network, continue to work with people in the industry who want to reciprocate business on the mortgage side, and maybe the area that I think I probably could try and capitalize a little bit more, maybe leverage a little bit more, is generating referrals from existing clients. The client base, the past client base continues to grow. And so I think that opportunity along with that continues to grow as well. So those are some things that are sort of top of mind to me as well. Doing more with less. I don't necessarily need to do a ton of transactions, but I definitely want to continue to increase my average sale price, which was, I think, around just a little over $500,000 last year, average sale price. So if I can increase that to 600 or 700,000 in 2020, I'm going to be making more money and doing the same amount of transactions. So I'm happy with that. My family's happy with that because I'm not, exhausting myself. My friends are happy with that because they're getting a fully present friend when I'm going out and having fun. So that I think are the things that are top of mind to me.
Fantastic. And then do you have, you've obviously done quite a bit in terms of, you talk about Vaynerchuk, you go to sales seminars and everything. If you were to suggest, something for a newer agent to learn from and absorb content from to get better at real estate, what would you suggest?
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of organizations that want to pull your attention. And there's a lot of organizations that want your money too as a real estate agent.
Absolutely.
So you're getting phone calls and texts and, buy this and do that and subscribe to this. And I think it's a real thing to have to focus and narrow in on one or two things that you can spend your time on that will have the biggest impact. For me personally, I'm following two people on podcast right now to help me grow my business. And one of them, I've mentioned both of them today. One of them is Gary Vaynerchuk. The other one is Tom Ferry.
Yep.
And so I don't listen to them all the time in every episode,
right,
but when I feel like I've reached a point where I've maximized what I've learned from them when I last listened to them, I'll go back and I'll start listening to some of the podcasts again. And I think that, like I said before, there's no shortage of information for real estate professionals, and there's no shortage of things to do. The real key is to be intentional and narrow and hone in on the things that you think are going to have the biggest impact on your business, and try not to do everything because you'll end up doing nothing and you'll be ineffective. So my two go-tos are Gary Vaynerchuk and Tom Ferry.
Excellent. And what is the best way that you for people to learn more about your real estate business, but also about electric vehicles?
Yeah. So you can search on YouTube my name, Sean Mitchell, and it will probably pull up both channels. The electric vehicle channel is called All Things EV, and I think maybe the real estate channel is called Sean Mitchell, Denver Real Estate Agent, or something like that. But you can search almost any platform and find me by my name, Sean Mitchell or Sean Michael Mitchell, and you'll see me pop up there. And would love to connect with you and say hello.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I definitely learned a lot about building a network and finding a niche market and using that to help grow your business. So I really appreciate your time, Sean.
For sure, man. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks a lot.